Today we're going to be looking at a typical problem that most Ford truck owners have experienced at one time or another. You're driving down the highway and you've got a little wandering on the road. Can't hold it in one spot. It's got a little too much slack in the steering, and Ford steering gearboxes are famous for this. And there's a number of different things that it could be, especially on a four-wheel drive. You've got U-joints that can freeze up on one side and not the other. You've got tie rod ends, drag links, pitman arms. You've got a lot of things it could be, and all of those are easy to diagnose and check. But today I want to show you the most typical problem with these trucks, and that is excessive play in the steering gearbox. I've already got the wheel off, as you can see, and most people recommend going in from the top also, but on these particular engines, 2008 Ford F250 with a 6.4 diesel engine, you have to take it's called the degassing bottle out, which is basically the coolant reservoir. It is made onto and with the battery box, and there's a lot of stuff you got to disconnect some coolant lines, you got to drain some coolant and all that to get that out so that you can see down in there. I'm going to try to do everything from the wheel well, and I feel very confident that this is going to work. Going through the wheel well, we're going to see if it's going to work together, and that way we may can find a new and easier way to do this. So let's get started. This is not going to work. Okay, like I said, we've already got the wheel off, and my next step is going to be to take this inner wheel well splash guard thing out. Number of little small fasteners around the edge here. You've got a couple up top here and on the side. So let me put your eyes in here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so wheel is off. What we're wanting to take out is this splash guard inner wheel well fender thing. What we're after is basically whatever this is, we're after what's behind it. This right here is a plastic guard on your rag joint, which is where your steering shaft comes down and attaches to the steering gearbox, and you have what they call a rag joint because there's a flexible part to it for shock absorption and stuff like that. That's behind this little guard. So we're going to pop that guard, slide it up, kind of see what's going on there. But our adjusting screws, and you can't really see them from where we're at right here, but on top of the steering gearbox, and I think some of you have probably seen this on other things, on top of the steering gearbox there's a nut and there's a stud that comes up through the middle of it. The way to adjust these, and it's in the Ford shop manual, is you loosen that locking nut, and while you're holding the locking nut, you're going to turn the stud that's in the middle of it, which has an Allen fitting in the top of it. So hold the locking nut so it doesn't turn, and you're going to tighten the stud in the middle until there's no more play in the steering gearbox. Now you have to be very careful about doing that because while yes, you can take the play out of the gears, if you tighten it too tight and you turn too sharp one way or the other, your steering will lock. And because the gears have meshed so tight together, you're not gonna pull them back apart. At least not from in the cab where you're sitting on the road making a turn, and that's not good. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take this inner wheel well fender splash guard thing out, and then we'll see what we got then. This right here is, well, actually I'm not sure what that is. It's definitely holding something, but we're gonna see if maybe we can't get this out of the way as well to get over behind here. It would make the situation a lot easier. Otherwise we got to go from the top and got to take a lot of stuff out, and I just am not excited about that. So let me do that, and I'll get you back in here. Hang tight. I got the inner fender splash guard thingy out, and so this little bracket, tell you what, if we can let's see if I can't put your eyes on what I'm after. All right, it's going to be, if you see that nut with a stud coming up out of it back there in the shadow, in the hidden place behind all the stuff back there, that's what we're after. And if I cram a mitt in there, I can touch it with my finger, but I need to free up a little room so that I can get a, see if I can focus a little better maybe. Nope, not at all. If I can get a wrench on that nut to loosen, and then get me a ratchet, put my Allen bit on it so I can turn that stud. I mean, it'll work. The only problem is this bracket needs to move somewhere, this way or maybe this way or maybe that way. But this is the appears to be the anti-lock brake system motor thingy electrical doodad. So I just need it to not be so rigidly fixed in one spot. So I think if I take this bolt out, take this nut off that stud, take that bolt out, all right, that'll free that bracket up. However, these are brake lines. I mean, you don't want to travel too far with them because they're rigid. Now they got a little bit of flexibility, little bit of flexibility. So this one comes down to a bracket. So I'll need to take that out, give it a little room to move. It comes down to this bracket here. Of course, this is a flexible line, but you don't want to move these flexible lines around too much, especially when they got a little age on them. The inside starts to crack and kind of come apart on you, and will shut her down. So we're going to take that bolt out right there. That'll give this a little flexibility. And when I take them bolts out, this is a wiring harness that goes into that thing. So I'm thinking if I can disconnect that kind of gives it a little relief over here on this side. Disconnect all this. Well, I say disconnect, loosen the bracketry that holds it on. Give it maybe a little bit of room to just kind of scoot just a little. Maybe I can shoot in this way. Probably not, but I'm gonna try all this. I think it's worth a shot rather than going up top. I have to drain some of the coolant out of the truck. I don't have anything to drain that in, and I think we can do this. We're gonna try it anyway. So hang in there. I'm gonna see what I can do about getting that wiring connector off. Of course, now anytime you're starting to disconnect stuff, especially if you're not sure what it is, you want to disconnect the batteries. So we'll disconnect the batteries, try to get that off, get some bolts loose. I'll get you back. Hang in there. Let me show you what I got so far. So we did take, you know, the bracket loose, took that loose. So we were able to kind of budge that out of the way. I mean, it's still there. We probably didn't budge it but about an inch, but it helps. When you're in this tight of a spot, every little bit helps. So what we got, if you can see that right there, the top nut is a 17 millimeter, which I don't have, so I've got an 11/16. That top nut really needs to come all the way off because the nut below it, it's got two locking nuts. The nut below it is a 5/8. I can't get my 5/8. And you got to have a ratcheting wrench because it's just like one click at a time, you know, click, push, click, push, click, push. And it's going to take forever, but I can't get my 5/8 down on the bottom nut till I get the top nut off. And it's taking a while. But I really think we're going to be able to do this. That's a 3/16 Allen wrench that goes into the top of that to turn what we need to turn there in the middle of that stud, that adjustment. So I'm still trying to get this top nut off. Then I'm going to try to get my 5/8 on the bottom nut to get it loose so we can turn the stud in the middle. Just want to let you know how far I've got. So I'll get some more done and I'll bring you back. Okay, so I've got that 17 millimeter nut off. May as well get you some penetrant, PB blaster, knocker loose, something like that. That's going to help you tremendously because, I mean, it fought to the very end. It was just, you know, I'm sure it had some thread locker on it. It's been on there since 2008, grit and grime. So that nut, the bottom nut is 5/8. What I've got rigged up here is, because you're not, you know, you don't have a whole lot of room in there. So what I've got is, I've got a belt tensioner tool. So it's very low profile. It's got the 3/8 connection on it. So I've got a 5/8 spark plug socket. So it's a little bit shorter than a 5/8 deep well. And got that on my belt tensioner tool. I'm going to try to get this in there and loosen this nut. Now, here's the trick is I want to loosen the nut without that middle part turning. So if you see, I don't know if it's focused good for you. There it is. If you see, I took a screwdriver and, you know, the top part of this thing is not threaded. Right there, you can see it. I've just kind of took my screwdriver and I've just kind of cleaned off a nice shiny spot on this side. That way, as I start loosening this nut, I can look and see if my adjustment screw in the middle there is turning. So if it is, I'm gonna have to reposition it back to where it's at right now. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose my reference as to where we start from. So let me go ahead and try to get that nut. I need to at least get it loose, you know, 2 or 3 turns so that I can turn the adjustment screw in the middle. And I may have to turn it like a full rotation. I don't know. What we're gonna do is we're gonna turn it about a 1/4 of a turn. Then I'm gonna rotate the wheels both left and right, see if there's how much play's left. And I'm gonna keep doing that until I have little to no play. So let me get this broke loose and we'll get back. Okay, I'm gonna try to show you the best I can. I gotta hold the camera with one arm and I'm gonna try to reach this with the other. So if I can get it to focus any better. So I got my 5/8 wrench. I can get it on the 5/8 nut back here, and I'm reaching behind this analog brake motor. Reaching behind here to get to get this wrench on that 5/8 nut. I did get the nut loose. I can turn it. The only problem is my center adjustment is turning with it. So I got my 3/16 Allen wrench. I'm gonna do my best to try and get the Allen wrench on from the other side of the anti-lock brake motor, and turn it with my left hand while I'm holding this wrench on the 5/8 nut, holding it still with my right hand. And don't forget, you know, we have to tighten this thing back up while holding the adjustment screw in one position. So it's going to get kind of challenging, but I'm gonna make one adjustment, probably about a half a turn. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the half a turn. Then I'm gonna tighten this 5/8 up and get back in the cab. I've got both front wheels jacked up. Of course, I got this one off, and I'm gonna spin the steering wheel to the left, you know, all the way till it stops. Spin it to the right all the way till it stops. I'm gonna do that a couple times, and if I don't feel any binding whatsoever, but I've still got a little play, I'm gonna tighten it. I'm gonna loosen the nut back up, and I'm gonna tighten it some more. Then, you know, once I feel as confident as I can with what I'm doing, tighten everything back up, put everything back together. We'll take it for a road test, and see if there's any problems whatsoever. If there's still some slop in it, you know, if there's just a small amount, I'm just gonna let it be good. Of course, if it's binding, we're definitely gonna have to take this thing back apart and take some of that adjustment back out of it. So let me see if I can tighten the adjustment up and get it set so we can at least turn the wheels on this thing to see if we're helping the situation any. Okay, I've tightened it about a half turn, maybe a little more, and then I tightened the bottom locking nut, cranked the truck, turned the steering all the way to one side, all the way to the other. No binding or anything like that, but it does seem to have just a little bit more slack in it. Still has some slack in it, so I'm gonna tighten it just a little bit more. And I can tell that it has slack because I can look out the window here, and I can keep my eye on my wheel. And as I'm turning the steering wheel, it goes about, you know, I would say 2 to 3 inches before it actually starts turning the wheel. So I could turn the steering wheel about 2 or 3 inches before the wheel actually starts to turn. So I'm gonna take up just a little bit more of it, and then I'm gonna put it all back together, because even now I know it's better than what it was, but you know, being as far into it as we are, I want to get it as best as I can. So anyway, let me tighten it just a little more, then we'll put it back together and we'll take it for a test drive. So a couple of observations before we button it up and take it for a test drive. Ben, this is my first time doing this, you know. Just want to make a couple of mental notes. Maybe you guys might save you guys a little trouble. So I got the nuts back on and all as well. You know, I had my socket on the belt tensioner tool, and I just couldn't get it over that stud, because if you'll see, that fan shroud on the back of it has these little fins that are fixed. You see the fan blade is kind of a yellow color in there. Well, these fixed blades along the back of the fan shroud had one that was directly where I needed my socket to be. So I kind of did a delete on that one fin. Turns out it was entirely unnecessary, because if you'll remember, I put a 5/8 wrench through this backside to hold the bottom nut while I turned the Allen wrench from over on this side. So I could just as easily have took my 11/16 ratcheting wrench, went in from the back, and took the top nut off. But you know, a guy never done this before, so I was taking the most direct route. Just remember, you've got other ways of, more than one way to skin the cat. So but number one, most important, this can be done without going from up top, removing the coolant bottle, draining coolant, removing radiator hoses, pulling batteries, battery trays. This can be done without doing all of that. And I really enjoy stepping back, taking a completely different approach to something that looks simple, but if you follow the crowd, everybody else does it, so it must be the way to go. That's not necessarily the truth. It may be, but it may not be. So take some initiative, sit back, look at a problem with fresh eyes, and do your own thing. Pick your own path. Sometimes it doesn't turn out well. That's okay. Nobody says you can't start over, but this one worked out well. You can do it. It's not that big of a deal. So you lose a little skin, What part of automotive work do you not lose skin? So that's going to be the repair. I'm going to take it for a test drive. I'm very confident in what I've done here. Shouldn't be any problems. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helps you. If you've got a Ford where the steering wheel's got a lot of play in it, this is 9 times out of 10 your problem. Now, being a 4x4, it could be in some of the U-joints and all this stuff down in there, possibly. Could possibly be tie rod ends loose. Could possibly be a number of things in the front steering and suspension. But if you've already gone under there and you've wiggled and you've pulled and everything's tight and nothing looks loose, nothing looks out of place, there's no movement other than your steering wheel and the truck seems to wander, that's probably going to be your problem. Anyway, if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and then tap that bell so that you can be notified when we've got new videos coming out. I really appreciate you watching. I hope you have a good day. Stay safe. God bless.